Hi, this is Joe Ziemba, and I host the podcast When Football Was Football here on the Sports History Network. I'm also the author of the recent book, Bears vs. Cardinals, the NFL's oldest rivalry. These two clubs first met in 1920 and will be renewing that rivalry again this year on December 24th in Chicago. In honor of that occasion, I'm very pleased to announce that the Sports History Network will be offering 2 free copies of my book to its listeners. To qualify for this great gridiron giveaway, just go to the link at sportshistorynetwork.com/Christmas 2023. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/Christmas 2023. Please enter by the closing date of December 15th so that we have enough time to contact you for a personal inscription of the book, and then ship the book to you for arrival prior to December 25th. And as always, thank you for listening to the Sports History Network, and good luck.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience, and today we bring you a special interview with Kent Washington. He was the first American player, and specifically African-American player, to play professionally in a communist country when he signed a contract to play for KS Start of the Polish Basketball League. He played his college ball in the mid-1970s at Division II Southampton College in New York. He was highly skilled and extremely quick. And the thing that I love about his story was his passion for working on his game. He would spend hours upon hours in the gym alone improving his skills. And while he was in college, his Southampton team had played some exhibition games in Poland one summer. And that is how he made it onto the radar of his future Polish team. After he graduated, he pursued a few opportunities to play in the United States, even getting some opportunities to play in Pro-Am tournaments against NBA players. In the end, he signed a contract in Poland, and that was just the beginning of his adventure of playing professional basketball in a communist country, where he did not know the language, at least not at first. He was also the first black person that most Polish people had ever seen in person, and that made him stand out nearly everywhere he went in Poland. So, without further ado, here is our interview with Kent Washington. So in reading your story, like I said, I found it very fascinating, and I know when you went to Poland to sign on, is it KS Start? Is that how you pronounce?
Yes.
So you
Yes.
went over there. Now, of course, that wasn't your first trip to Poland. I know you'd been there once with Southampton College.
Yes.
And I wanted to start with the question of, I'm sure you probably heard a lot of stories and myths of what going to a communist country was going to be like, but what was the most positive sort of surprise once you got there and got to see it for yourself?
You mean the first time or the professional contract?
Let's go with when you went there professionally.
Okay. So in 1979, when I went there as a pro, the most positive thing was the reaction from the fans, which I already had a little bit of when I played college there. But that was the most positive thing. The fans' enthusiasm, coupled with the fact that the city embraced me.
And that was the city. Is it Lublin? Lublin?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and it seems that in reading your book, your teammates really had no problem that you were an American, or particularly an African American. They seemed to embrace you fairly quickly. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, when you spend so much time, you practice twice a day, you're in the saunas together, you're on buses, trains, taking long trips, hotel rooms. Even though I couldn't speak my first year and a half or so, I had a translator on some trips, all the practices. But you create a bond, a trust that they got your back, you got their back, no matter what. Those guys loved me, and I just loved them because they saw that I was all about basketball. I was there to help us reach a higher level. And that was the bottom line.
Sure, absolutely. And I also wanted to get into were the fans there in Europe, and I've been to, not to Poland, but I've been to other European countries. The way the fans respond to their team is a little different than the way they respond here in the United States.
Oh yeah, way different. When I come back here, I'm troubled by the fandom here. I'm troubled. I mean, Lublin, if you live there, you only root for Lublin teams. That's it.
Yeah.
You root for them whether they're good or bad. There's nobody in Lublin rooting for a team from like Warsaw.
Yeah.
You just don't have that kind of fandom. It doesn't cross over cities. And they chant, they whistle, they play drums, they cheer. It is just constant noise level the whole game. They're waving flags, they have banners. It is constant, but it is genuine.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Authentic fandom.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That would be, as an American, I would love to experience that, even just once, that level of loyalty. And I know you enjoyed doing a lot of work on your own. And reading, you did, from in high school, college, into the pros, you did a lot of your individual work by yourself. How did your teammates and your coaches respond to all this individual work that you were doing that maybe some of the other guys were not doing?
Yeah, that's interesting. Through high school, when I hear people say that, these kids nowadays, they don't work hard. Guys back then, they didn't work hard either. I mean, everybody didn't work hard. It was just some people that did. So I always had this unquenchable thirst to improve. That was just it. I didn't have any dreams of playing college, any dreams of playing the pros. I just set goals. Junior high school. I was shocked when I got a college scout actually wanted me. So I just worked, and my individual training was a place of solitude. And that chapter in the book is so important because I lived in a world of solitude. My basketball brought me into my own world. where I felt safe. So through that, college was the same thing. I didn't practice to make my college teammates look bad. I practiced because I had this obsession with practice, and that was on me, not them. So no coach ever said, well, look at Kenny. He's practicing a lot, because my coaches knew that I had this illness. I was addicted to basketball. That was just me. And when I went over to Poland, my teammates, we practiced twice a day, and I was in the gym earlier every practice, but it wasn't to intimidate them or make them look bad. They realized that this guy just really likes to practice basketball. So it was never looked upon by any teammate, high school, college, or pro, including Sweden too, that was just me. So don't compare other people to me. That's just who I am.
Yeah, I love that you did that you took your game that seriously, that you loved it. It was a place, like you said, a solitude for you. And that makes sense. Everything you're saying completely makes sense to me, and why you were so passionate about developing your skills. Now, I wanted to ask specifically about some of the training methods. The European training methods at that time were quite different than American training methods for basketball. But however, at the same time, what they did back then, I think you see a lot of that here now because of the European influence with so many European players in the NBA. A lot of that is now normal here today, and it wasn't back then. Can you tell me more about how you trained as an athlete?
Yes. I didn't realize there was so much stretching involved, weight training involved, because back when I played, you didn't lift weights. That was like taboo. That came a lot like later. You didn't want to be too strong. It would throw your shot off. But in Poland, we had our first training was weight training and just like shooting, maximum like shooting. So I learned that you could lift weights and then shoot right after. And the way they trained us was everybody was a ball handler. They trained skill first. And then the player grows into whatever position they are. So everybody, there's 6'10" guys who can handle the ball. That was just European ball. They could all handle, all shoot. And I realized that, wow, we got centers that just play down low in the block. These guys pick and pop. They don't pick and roll. They pop to a shot. And I was like, wow, you can't guard these guys. So I saw back then that the European player was skilled enough to play here. The question is, would they be featured on their team? So if you bring them over and you just plug them in as a complimentary player, you're not serving their skill set. But when you feature them, they got enormous skill. Those guys that are 6'10", handle the ball, pass the ball. Jokic is a great player. But there were Jokic's back then too. But nobody ever could see him because they were in like Russia, and Russia was not allowing any players outside of the States. Alvidas Sabonis at 19 was unbelievable. And their entire national team was phenomenal, but they couldn't get outside the States. So they train different. They practice more. We play a bunch of AAU games here. It's nonsensical here. Game. They train more. They train their skill more. That's why they're going to take the pros over soon. They're doing it now.
Yeah, and you mentioned that how you were there in Europe. You train twice a day, and then you maybe play one maybe 2 games a week. was the typical schedule, which is almost reverse of what we do here, but whether it's college or NBA. It's a couple of practices a week and nothing. Like you said, game. And from the NBA, we get it because it's an entertainment business. They got to make money. They got to have games. But it's definitely just kind of the other way around. And I think you're saying is that helps the development.
Absolutely. Yeah. I never got better playing games. I got better practicing. Because when you play games as a youth, you're playing to your strength. When you practice, you can practice your weaknesses and strengths. And that's what it's about. That's how players improve. Games give you decision-making skills, but they don't make you improve. So our youth here spend far too much time playing games and far too little time actually skill training.
As you got on over the first couple of years there in Poland, I know you learned the language and you're feeling each season much more comfortable with the culture and the people. And there was one great story in here where there was an American couple at a restaurant and they were being rude with the server, and you came and kind of gave a piece of your mind.
Absolutely. I became Polish. There was no question about it. So I'm sitting there with my the teammates at a pregame meal, and these Americans are hassling the waitress about how much coffee costs after the meal. Well, it's free in America, and I'm hearing all this bickering and stuff, and the poor waitress she couldn't really speak English. She was feeling bad, so she left to get the coffee, and I got up and I went right over to him and says, just pay for the coffee. This is ridiculous. You want me to pay for it for you? This is why people don't like Americans, And then I sat back down and my teammates kind of looked at me and said, he's Polish.
Well, that's wonderful, that you were accepted so easily in Polish culture. And I know you mentioned getting stopped for an autograph because, you obviously looked different than the typical Pole. No matter where you went, you stood out in the crowd. Now, when you go to that, where you're in the newspaper regularly, you're getting asked for your autograph regularly, you came home to New York in the summertime, and you weren't necessarily being asked for your autograph in the summer.
Yeah, I lived two different lives, and I could keep them apart. I got it. Here, I play in, the pro tournaments, but I was just a good point guard. There, I was a star.
Yeah.
But I understood my role on both teams. And I realized also that I'm a second-class basketball citizen. I grew up with pros, Gus Williams, Ray Williams, Earl, Tatum, all of these guys playing. I played with pros constantly. So I knew that Poland was not exactly anything to be bragging about, so I kept my mouth shut, came home, got better here, practiced all the time here, played in a few pro-ams, and then went back there a stronger player. Mm-hmm. So I kept my two basketball worlds totally separate.
Yeah, and that makes sense to be able to keep those two, sort of like you said, two lives and be able to navigate each of them separately. But then after a couple of years, starts to struggle because as you guys had success, some players signed as free agents elsewhere. Your coach went elsewhere. And that move from, am I saying it right, Zagreb? Or Zagreb? Zagłębie. Okay. And so you make the transition to that team. It's a different city. And what was that like to start with new teammates in a new town?
Yeah, well, one thing that made it very simple was my girlfriend came with me. So I had a sense of like family now, and the teammates there knew me already because I played against them. So they knew how I played and they accepted me quickly because my new role here was to be a guiding force. They were a young, talented team that just kind of come up. So I was there to kind of like stabilize them, and they were very good. When we had some good years there, the problem was the social solidarity movement that kind of deterred our advancement the first year there. But we had a really good team, great guys to play with.
Yeah, and that part really kind of pulled me in because, I mean, it's the non-basketball part of the story, how the solidarity movement, because you were in a coal mining town, really was impactful in that city versus maybe other cities in Poland, where it disrupted it disrupted the basketball schedule. I think the league kind of suspended for a little while and then returned to action.
Yes, we could actually practice, but games were suspended, and we were winning, playing really well. And that downtime there, where there were no games, really hurt us as a team because we had younger guys that were kind of riding that wave, you know. But then we had other challenges like rationing food, coupons, standing in line, tanks on the street, you know, things like that didn't make me, I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel any fear at all, but it just disrupted basketball. But I could still practice, so I was in heaven.
Yeah, and then came the move to Sweden. I know that was a challenge that you're leaving Poland that you came to love. Now in Sweden, I believe there is more English spoken in Sweden. Did you ever feel like you became Swedish the way you became Polish, or was it just completely different?
It was different. I have a Swedish passport now. I lived there for 14 years. I played 10 years there. But when you can speak English, although I do speak fluent Swedish, but when you can speak English there and the lifestyle, the quality of life is just like America. There's no real transition. Yeah. So they were totally different.
And I know that's where you met your wife, and then you have a daughter who plays softball for a while, and so that was a nice kind of end to that story that you started your family there in Sweden. Once your playing days began to wind down, kind of what was the next chapter for Kent Washington?
Yeah, I came back to the States with my family. My daughter was about 5 because I felt that my parents here couldn't see their grandchild. So my wife and I decided to come back here, and Kelly, my daughter, really thrived here. I was always kind of torn because I was a European at heart now. My wife likes New York, but she missed it too. So we kind of dealt with it. I began to coach a little, but I found out I'm a terrible coach. So I turned to being a 3rd grade math teaching assistant, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah. My coaching, I could be an assistant coach because I like doing skill things. Yeah. But the head coaching part, you know, responsible for kids' playing time and the wins and the losses, and this parents over here, pain in the neck, and there's just so much bluster with sports. My parents never bothered me playing sports, you know, so seeing sports now here is so confusing because the parents are so overly involved, and there's this fake fandom, you know. I got to hear on the radio 24/7. So now I'm going back to the Netherlands to live there soon. My daughter lives there. So that's where I'm at now.
Okay. So you're planning to move to the Netherlands. Coincidentally, I was only there for a day. I was there this summer just for one day, just to tour Amsterdam with my family, and then we moved on to Belgium the next day. But that's one. So what are the plans in the Netherlands for you?
Well, we just bought a place in Haarlem, which is 20 minutes outside of Amsterdam.
Yes.
And we love it. I love that place. So I'm retired. I'm chilling. My wife may do something a little bit, but we're planning on really seeing her parents. We're very close to Sweden now. And, I just have a European lifestyle now. I mean, I've always had that in me. I never really got back to being American here after I left. Once you go to Europe and you live there, it changes you.
Yeah, no, I believe my wife is from Spain. And so we have the same sort of conversations about going back and, how much it's like there in Europe versus here. But yeah, no, I could definitely appreciate that dynamic in your marriage. That's wonderful. Oh, one thing I wanted to just kind of finish with is the whole time you were playing there. Now, you weren't just playing there. You were always in the conversations in the Polish league for the MVP or their equivalent of the MVP. You were kind of there in those conversations. And in Sweden, I believe you did win in the Swedish league. Is that correct?
Yes, I was the league MVP there once that I know of. Back then, they didn't really announce these things. It was so weird. Now there's like MVP of games, MVP of the week, MVP of the month. They have all these things. There, you had to actually find out. But in Sweden, I was 1 year. I was the scoring leader 1 year after that. So I figured that I could have been twice, but I don't know. But definitely once.
Once.
Just can't keep track of these things sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Kent, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this really is a wonderful story, and we're very happy to share it on the podcast to let people know that you were there as the first American to play behind the Iron Curtain in a communist country, and it's such a wonderful experience. And the Polish people the way they accepted you and treated you definitely kind of broke down some of the misconceptions of the people, because I believe anywhere you go in Europe, the people are not necessarily the same as the government.
That's the message. Communism is not an indictment on the people that live there.
Yeah,
that's the message.
Yeah, they want the same things everybody wants: a nice living, raise your family, have a good life.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, Ken. I really appreciate your time and being able to share this for you. And we'll put a link to the book in our show descriptions to make sure that the audience has a chance to be able to order that for themselves. Thank you, Kent. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye. I just want to thank Ken Washington for taking time to talk to us about his incredible experience playing professional basketball in Poland and then later in Sweden. Spending time overseas is an opportunity to grow as a person as you get to see what life is like from a different perspective. It is nearly impossible to spend time overseas without being changed for the better. However, as with nearly any interview, as much as we covered during our conversation, we really were just scratching the surface of his experience playing pro basketball in Poland and Sweden. So I want to encourage you all to get Kent's book about his time overseas. The book is called Kentomania, and it is available on Amazon. We put the link to the book in the description, so do yourself a favor, buy a copy, and give it a good read. Kent really is an amazing guy with an amazing story. So join us next time when we share the story of the physiology of basketball as described by the inventor himself, Dr. James Naismith. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorum Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Have you ever noticed that the lower jaw is not protected in sports? Did you know that 10,800 concussions will happen today? This has been an upward trend for the past 50 years. I'm Dr. Michael Hutchison, a practicing neuromuscular dentist. When my son wanted to participate in football and rugby, I was afraid he was going to get a concussion. That fear led me to finding the missing link to reducing concussions. The fact is, the only part of the skull that is not protected in sports is the lower jaw. If you want to drastically reduce concussions, there are 3 basic jaw positions that affect concussions, and 2 of them are not good. The correct one is called physiologic jaw position. It will dissipate the force away from the brain. Knowing that, I designed an appliance that put my son's jaw in the right place, and as a result, he was concussion-free from 5th grade all the way to senior year. This jaw position takes those 10,800 concussions today down to 28. It's the key to concussion protection. As a parent, this is what you need to know. It's extremely important that the device you are using is on the lower jaw. Thickness of the device is important. Most importantly, it must position and hold you in your own unique personal physiologic jaw position. So if your child goes out on the field with the correct jaw position, your son or daughter will not one of those 10,800 concussions today. Get yours today at powerplusmouthguard.com. Use the promo code POWERUP2023 for 10% off.